I was 63 years old the morning I learned that sometimes the people who save your life are the ones you'd walk past without a second glance. It was a Tuesday in late August, one of those sweltering days when the air in Toronto felt thick enough to chew. I'd driven down to the community garden on Danforth Avenue, the one run by Augustine's Church. My wife, Caroline, had volunteered there for 15 years before the cancer took her. After she passed, I couldn't bring myself to go back. But that morning, something pulled me there. Maybe grief, maybe guilt, maybe just the need to feel close to her again. The garden was quieter than I remembered. Most of the volunteers were older folks like me, moving slowly between the raised beds, their hands dark with soil. I found Caroline's plot, or what used to be hers. Someone else had claimed it now, filled it with tomatoes and basil. I stood there longer than I should have, feeling foolish and lost. First time back? The voice startled me. I turned to find a man sitting on the bench near the tool shed. He looked to be in his 50s, maybe older, it was hard to tell. His face was weathered like old leather, his clothes worn but clean, a faded army jacket despite the heat. His eyes were sharp, though, alert in a way that made me think he saw more than most people. "Yeah," I said. "First time in 2 years." He nodded, didn't say anything else. Just went back to whittling a piece of wood with a pocket knife. I should have left it at that, but something about him seemed familiar. Not his face, I'd never seen him before, but the way he held himself, the way Caroline used to talk about the other volunteers, the ones who'd show up early and leave late, the quiet ones who did the work without needing recognition. "Were you here when my wife volunteered?" I asked. "Caroline Morrison?" His hands stilled. He looked up at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "The woman who grew the purple irises? That's her. I remember." He folded his knife and tucked it away. "She gave me coffee once. Didn't ask questions. Just gave it." I felt my throat tighten. That sounded like Caroline. "I'm headed to the coffee shop across the street," I said, not entirely sure why I was offering. "You want something?" "My treat." He studied me for a moment, then stood. "Sure. Thank you." We walked to the cafe in silence. I ordered 2 coffees and a couple of those overpriced muffins they kept under glass. We sat at a table by the window, and I watched him eat like someone who didn't know when the next meal might come. When he finished, he looked at me directly. "You've got a daughter," he said. It wasn't a question. I blinked. "Rebecca. How did you—" "Saw her picture. On your phone." He nodded toward where I'd set it on the table. The lock screen showed Rebecca from last Christmas, grinning in a ridiculous sweater Caroline had made her wear. "She lives in Vancouver," I said, feeling oddly defensive. "Works in real estate, doing well for herself." He was quiet for a moment, turning his coffee cup slowly. "That big maple tree in your backyard," he finally said. "The one with the tire swing." My blood went cold. "How do you know about that?" "Doesn't matter how. What matters is this: don't let anyone cut it down. Doesn't matter what they tell you, don't let them touch it." I stared at him. "What are you talking about? Your daughter's coming home." He stood up, slinging his jacket over one shoulder. "When she does, she's going to say that tree is dangerous, that it needs to come down before it falls on the house. Don't believe her." "Wait, I don't understand." But he was already heading for the door. I grabbed my phone and rushed after him. But by the time I reached the sidewalk, he'd vanished into the lunch crowd. I stood there sweating in the August heat, my heart hammering, wondering if I'd just had a conversation with a crazy person, or if something much stranger had just happened. I tried to shake it off as I drove home. The house felt emptier than usual. Caroline and I had lived there for 38 years, raised Rebecca there, watched her climb that maple tree until she was too old to fit through the branches. After Caroline died, I'd thought about selling. Too many rooms, too many memories. But Rebecca had begged me not to. "It's the family home, Dad," she'd said over the phone, her voice thick with emotion. "Mom would want you to keep it." So I'd stayed. Rattling around in 4 bedrooms and a basement full of Caroline's things I couldn't bring myself to sort through. My phone buzzed as I was making dinner a pathetic affair of canned soup and crackers. Rebecca's name flashed on the screen. "Hey, sweetheart," I answered, trying to inject some cheer into my voice. "Dad, hi." She sounded breathless, excited. "I have amazing news. I'm coming home." My hand stilled over the pot. "You are?" "Yes. I know it's been forever. Work has been insane, but I managed to get some time off. I'll be there Friday. Is that okay?" Of course. Your room's always ready. I meant it. I was thrilled. Rebecca and I had been close once, before she moved west for university and never really came back. The last few years, especially after Caroline died, our conversations had become stilted, obligatory, perfect. Oh, and Dad? I've been thinking about the house. We should talk about some improvements when I get there. Something cold slithered down my spine. What kind of improvements? Just some updates. Safety stuff, mostly. We can discuss it when I see you. Love you. She hung up before I could respond. I stood there holding the phone, the homeless man's words echoing in my head. When she does, she's going to say that tree is dangerous. I told myself it was coincidence. People worry about old trees all the time. But I didn't sleep well that night. Rebecca arrived Friday afternoon in a rental car, pulling up with her usual whirlwind energy. She looked good, thinner than I remembered, sharper somehow, dressed in expensive clothes that made our modest Scarborough neighborhood seem shabby by comparison. She hugged me tight, and for a moment I let myself believe everything was fine. "The house looks great, Dad," she said, dragging her suitcase through the door, but her eyes were scanning, assessing. I could see her real estate brain cataloging every scuff mark, every outdated fixture. We had dinner. I'd actually tried this time, making her favorite pasta, and talked about safe things. Her work, my retirement, the weather. She was animated, funny, the daughter I remembered. But there was something underneath, something I couldn't quite name, an urgency in the way she kept checking her phone, a tension in her shoulders. It was during dessert that she brought it up. "Dad, I've been worried about something." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "That maple tree out back. When was the last time you had it inspected?" There it was. I forced myself to breathe normally. "It's fine, Rebecca. It's been there for over 100 years. "Exactly. That's ancient for a tree in an urban setting. And with climate change, all these extreme weather events, I just keep thinking about what would happen if it came down in a storm. It could destroy the house, hurt you. It's a strong tree. I know you love it." Her voice softened, became almost pleading. "I have memories of it too, Dad. But Mom wouldn't want you at risk. And honestly, from a property value standpoint, I'm not selling the house." She pulled her hand back, and I saw a flash of something frustration, anger, cross her face before she smiled again. "I'm not suggesting you sell, but if you ever needed to, that tree is actually a liability. It's taking up a huge portion of the yard. Without it, you could have a beautiful garden, maybe a patio, and the house would be worth significantly more. I don't care about property value, but I do." The words came out sharp, then she caught herself. "I mean, I care about your safety and your financial security. You're living on a fixed income now. That tree represents equity you could access if you needed to." I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. The makeup couldn't quite hide the circles under her eyes. The smile didn't reach all the way, and her hands, when she lifted her wine glass, trembled slightly. "Are you in trouble?" I asked quietly. "What? No. Dad, this isn't about me. This is about you." But she wouldn't meet my eyes. The next morning, I woke to the sound of voices in the backyard. I pulled on my robe and looked out to see Rebecca standing under the maple, with a man in a bright vest holding a clipboard. A truck with Thornton Tree Services was parked in the driveway. I was out the door before I'd fully processed what I was seeing. "What's going on?" Rebecca turned, looking guilty. "Dad, I just wanted to get a professional opinion." "Without asking me?" The tree service guy, young, apologetic, held up his hands. "Sir, your daughter called yesterday, said it was urgent. I'm just here to do an assessment." "And what's your assessment?" He glanced at Rebecca, then back at me. "Honestly, tree looks healthy to me. There's some minor deadwood I could trim, but it's structurally sound, not a danger." Rebecca's jaw tightened. "Could you give us a minute?" He retreated to his truck, leaving us standing in the shadow of the maple. The tire swing Caroline had hung moved slightly in the breeze. "Rebecca, what is this really about?" "I already told you. The truth." My voice came out harder than I intended. "Are you in debt?" She flinched like I'd slapped her. For a long moment she didn't speak. Then her shoulders sagged. "It's complicated, Dad. Uncomplicated." She sat down on the old wooden bench Caroline used to paint on. "I made some investments. Real estate investments in Vancouver. The market was supposed to boom. Everyone said so. I leveraged everything, my condo, my savings. I was going to flip 3 properties and make enough to retire by 40. My stomach sank. What happened? The market tanked. Interest rates went crazy. Now I'm underwater on all 3 properties, and the bank is. She pressed her hands to her face. I owe $780,000. Dad, I'm going to lose everything. I sat down beside her, my mind reeling. Why didn't you tell me? Because you'd say I was reckless. Because Mom always warned me about get-rich-quick schemes, and I didn't listen. Because I'm ashamed. She was crying now, and I put my arm around her. I thought if I could just get some capital together, I could make the payments until the market recovers. This house, it's worth almost $2 million now. We could sell it, split the money. You could move into a nice condo, something easier to maintain, and I could save my business. This is our home. It's just a house, Dad. Mom's gone. You don't need all this space. It's not about the space. She pulled away from me, wiping her eyes. Then what is it about? Holding on to the past? Mom would want us to be practical. Your mother would want me to keep the promises I made to her. What promises? I looked up at the maple. Caroline had been adamant about that tree. It was here when we bought the house, and she'd fallen in love with it immediately. We'd had landscapers suggest removing it a dozen times too big, too old, too close to the foundation. But Caroline had refused. She said some things deserved to exist just because they were beautiful. The house stays, I said quietly. I'm sorry about your situation, sweetheart. I truly am, but I can't sell. Rebecca stood up, and the softness drained from her face. Can't or won't. Does it matter? Fine. Her voice had gone cold. Then I need you to sign some papers. What papers? For the tree removal. Just that maple. There's a developer who's been buying up properties in this neighborhood. They want to build a complex of townhomes. This lot and the 3 adjacent ones would be perfect, but they can't get permits because of heritage tree designations. If we remove the maple before they start the purchase process, we could sell for $2.3 million. It's a significant increase over market value. I stared at her. You want me to destroy a century-old tree so you can sell our home out from under me? I want you to help your daughter. Her voice cracked. Please, Dad. I'm desperate. If I don't come up with money in the next 60 days, I lose everything. I'll be bankrupt, ruined. And if I do this, where would I live? There are excellent retirement communities, assisted living places where you'd have people around, activities. I don't need assisted living. I'm 63, not 90. But you're alone. Mom's gone. Don't you get lonely in this big house? The question hurt more than I expected. Every day, I admitted. But that doesn't mean I want to leave. She grabbed my hands. 1 tree, Dad. That's all. We keep the house, just remove the tree, and suddenly we have options. You don't even have to sell if you don't want to. But at least we'd have the equity accessible. We could take out a loan against the increased value. Enough for me to save my business, and for you to have a safety net. I thought about the homeless man. Don't let them cut it down. Doesn't matter what they tell you. No. Dad. I said no. And you need to cancel the tree service. Rebecca's expression hardened into something I didn't recognize. You're being selfish. Maybe. But it's my house and my tree. She walked back inside without another word. I heard her on the phone, her voice tight and angry but too quiet for me to make out words. The tree service guy was waiting awkwardly by his truck. I sent him away with an apology and a 20 for his trouble. I spent the rest of the day in my workshop in the basement, trying to occupy my hands and quiet my mind. Rebecca stayed in her room. We didn't speak at dinner. The silence felt like a living thing, heavy and poisonous. Around midnight, I got up for water and saw the light still on under her door. I stood there, my hand raised to knock, wanting to fix things somehow. But I didn't know how to bridge the gap that had opened between us. That's when I heard her voice, low and urgent. I'm telling you, he won't budge. No, I tried. Well, what am I supposed to do? I can't force him. There has to be another way to get the property designated non-heritage. Money? Obviously. Everything costs money. I backed away quietly and returned to my room, my heart sinking. Sunday morning, Rebecca was gone when I woke up. Her rental car was missing from the driveway. I found a note on the kitchen counter. Dad went to look at some retirement communities for you. Back this afternoon. Love, R. I crumpled the note and threw it away. Then, on impulse, I went back to the community garden. I didn't really expect to find him there, but somehow I wasn't surprised when I did. The homeless man was sitting on the same bench, working on the same piece of wood. He looked up when I approached. "You didn't listen," he said. "She hasn't cut it down yet, but she's trying." I sat down beside him. "How did you know?" "About my daughter, about the tree." He set down his whittling. "I was at the casino in July. I go sometimes when I get my disability check old habit from before I got clean. I saw her there. She was at the high-stakes table, looked like she'd been there for hours. She was on her phone, arguing with someone. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but she was loud." "What did she say?" "She was talking about you, about the house. She said, 'Once I get the old man into assisted care, I can do whatever I want with the property. He won't even understand what's happening.'" He paused. "She was talking about putting you somewhere against your will, for dementia patients, even though you don't have dementia." The world seemed to tilt. "That's illegal." "Is it? With the right doctor's signature, the right paperwork. I don't know the law, but I know wrong when I hear it." He looked at me with those sharp eyes. "She mentioned the tree specifically, said it was the only thing standing between her and a clean sale to some developer. Something about heritage designation and permits." I felt sick. "So the tree is, what, protected?" "Must be. Old-growth trees in urban areas sometimes get special status. Makes them hard to remove without city approval. And if the city won't approve it, developers won't buy. But if the tree was already gone before the sale, then there's nothing to protect. No heritage status to worry about. Just an empty lot ready for development." He picked up his wood again. "I saw her at the garden a few weeks ago, taking pictures of your tree, talking to some guy in a suit. They were measuring the property line, checking sight lines. I followed them back to their car, heard them mention your address. That's when I knew I had to warn you." "Why?" The question came out raw. "Why do you care?" He smiled, and it softened his weathered face. "Your wife gave me coffee without asking why I needed it. In 3 years of coming to that garden, she was the only person who treated me like I was human. Not a problem, not a project, just a person who needed a hot drink on a cold morning." He met my eyes. "That kind of kindness is rare. I owed her, and I owe you for carrying on her work today." I had to look away before I started crying. "I don't know what to do. You need a lawyer, not family court property law. Someone who can put protections in place so your daughter can't act without your explicit permission." "She's my daughter." "I know, and that makes it harder. But love doesn't give someone the right to destroy you." He handed me a scrap of paper with a name and number written in careful print. "This is a legal aid clinic downtown. They helped me with my VA benefits. They're good people." I took the paper. "What's your name?" "Henry. Henry Kowalski." "I'm Thomas. Thomas Morrison." We shook hands, and I felt something settle in my chest. Not peace, exactly, but clarity. Rebecca came back that evening with brochures for 3 different retirement facilities. She spread them across the kitchen table like she was presenting a real estate portfolio. "Look at this one, Dad. It's in North York. Beautiful grounds, full amenities. They have woodworking classes. You'd love it." I gathered up the brochures and handed them back to her. "I'm not moving into a retirement home. Just look at them, please. It might surprise you. I spoke to a lawyer today." She froze. "What?" "A property lawyer. I wanted to make sure I understood my rights regarding this house and that maple tree." The color drained from her face. "Dad, you don't need a lawyer." "Apparently I do. Because according to the lawyer, the tree has heritage protection. It's designated as a significant urban forest asset. Removing it requires city approval, which can take months and usually gets denied." I watched her carefully. "But you already knew that, didn't you?" She opened her mouth, closed it. "I was going to tell you." "When?" "After you'd tricked me into cutting it down illegally? After you'd forged my signature on removal permits?" "I never." But she couldn't finish the lie. "There's more. I pulled out the papers the lawyer had helped me draft. I've put the house in a trust. It can't be sold or significantly altered without the approval of a third-party trustee. If anything happens to me, if I'm declared incompetent, if I die, anything, the house is protected." Rebecca stared at the documents like they were written in a foreign language. "You're cutting me out of your will." "No. The house still passes to you eventually, But you can't sell it for 10 years after my death, and you can never remove that maple tree. It's a conservation easement, legally binding. You can't do this. I already have. The papers are filed with the city and the province. She sank into a chair, her face crumpling. You're condemning me. You know that, right? I'm going to lose everything. I'm sorry. I truly am. But I'm not going to let you take everything I have left of your mother to fix mistakes you made. She'd understand, Rebecca said desperately. Mom would want you to help me. Your mother would want you to face the consequences of your choices. She'd want you to ask for help, not manipulate and scheme. My voice broke. She'd want you to be someone I could trust. Rebecca was crying now, hard sobs that shook her whole body. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to take it all back. But I thought about Henry's words. Love doesn't give someone the right to destroy you. I'll give you what I can, I said quietly. I have about $30,000 in savings. It's yours. It won't solve everything, but it might buy you time. She looked up, tears streaming. And the house? Stays with me. Then your money isn't enough. She stood up shakily, grabbed her purse. I need to go. Rebecca. I need to think. I need to. She headed for the door, then stopped. I'm sorry, Dad, for all of it. I was scared. I'm scared. I know, sweetheart. I'll call you. She left. I heard the rental car start, watched the headlights sweep across the living room wall. Then I was alone again. I went outside and stood under the maple tree. In the dark, I could barely see its branches, but I could hear the leaves rustling in the night wind. I thought about Caroline, about all the summer evenings we'd spent out here, drinking wine and watching Rebecca play, about how she'd insisted we hang that tire swing even though Rebecca was almost too old for it. She'll grow up soon enough, Caroline had said. Let her be a kid a little longer. I touched the rough bark and felt like I was touching history. This tree had been here before me, would be here after me. It had survived storms and droughts, and the endless encroachment of the city. It deserved to stand. The next few weeks were difficult. Rebecca called twice short, stilted conversations where we both avoided the real issues. She'd gone back to Vancouver, was working on solutions. I didn't ask what that meant. Henry kept showing up at the garden. We'd have coffee, talk about nothing important. He was good company, steady. I learned he'd been a medic in Afghanistan, had come home with PTSD, and an addiction he'd beaten after years of struggle. He'd been on the streets for a while, then in shelters, now in subsidized housing. He was training as a peer counselor for other veterans. Caroline would have liked you, I told him one morning. Yeah? He smiled. I like to think I would have liked her too. One Tuesday in October, about 2 months after Rebecca's visit, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Morrison? This is Detective Sarah Chen, Toronto Police, Fraud Division. Do you have a few minutes to talk? My blood went cold. What's this about? We've been investigating a real estate fraud case. Your daughter's name came up. She tried to sell a property in Kitsilano that she didn't fully own, took deposits from multiple buyers for the same property. When the deals fell through, she didn't return the money. I sat down heavily. How much? About $400,000 in deposits. The charges are serious, Mr. Morrison. Wire fraud, theft over $5,000, fraud over $5,000. She could be looking at significant jail time. Where is she? In custody in Vancouver? She's been denied bail. Her lawyer tried to use your house as security, but it seems the property's tied up in some kind of trust? Yes. That's probably good news for you. Otherwise, you might have lost it. Detective Chen paused. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this. I know this must be difficult. It was beyond difficult. It was devastating, but not surprising. I'd known something was wrong. I just hadn't wanted to see how wrong. I called Henry. We sat in the garden. It was too cold now for most people, but we bundled up and sat on the bench anyway. I keep asking myself where I went wrong, I said. What I did to raise a daughter who could. You didn't do this. She did. But I'm her father. I should have. What? Predicted the future? Controlled every choice she made as an adult? Henry shook his head. I see this with veterans all the time. People thinking they're responsible for things beyond their control. You gave her a home, an education, love. What she did with it was her choice. She's going to prison. Maybe. Maybe that's what she needs to face what she's done. To have a chance to become someone better. I looked at the empty garden beds, waiting for spring. I don't know if I can forgive her. You don't have to. Not today. Maybe not ever. Forgiveness isn't required, Thomas, especially not when someone's actively trying to hurt you. We sat in silence for a while. Finally I said, "Thank you for warning me. If you hadn't, your wife would have done the same for me. We look out for each other. That's how we survive." Rebecca's trial happened in February. I didn't attend. I couldn't bear to see her like that, in handcuffs, facing years in prison. Her lawyer called afterward to tell me she'd pled guilty, got 8 years. With good behavior, maybe 5 years. My daughter would be in her 40s when she got out. I sold the $30,000 in savings I'd offered her and donated it to the legal aid clinic that Henry had recommended. Then I did something else. I started volunteering at the community garden again. Really volunteering, not just showing up, but coordinating the planting schedules, organizing supply donations, teaching workshops on composting. Henry helped. We made a good team. Other volunteers started joining people from the neighborhood, some homeless folks Henry knew, a few refugees from the church's sponsorship program. The garden became something more than just a place to grow vegetables. It became a community. One day in May, a year after that August morning when I'd met Henry, I was working in Caroline's old plot. I'd reclaimed it. The previous volunteer had moved on when a woman about my age sat down on the bench. "Beautiful garden," she said. "Thank you. It's a group effort. I heard about what you're doing here, creating space for people who need it. I lost my husband last year. I've been looking for something. I don't know. Purpose, I guess." I looked at her, really looked. She had kind eyes. Sad, but kind. "We can always use more help," I said. "I'm Thomas. Judith." We shook hands, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Not romantic, nothing like that. Just the possibility of connection, of not being quite so alone. I went home that evening and stood under the maple tree. The tire swing was gone, now the rope had rotted through and I'd taken it down. But the tree itself was magnificent, covered in new spring leaves. I touched the bark the way I had that night after Rebecca left. "I kept my promise, Caroline," I said quietly. The wind moved through the branches, and I let myself imagine it was her answer. I think about Rebecca sometimes. Wonder if prison is changing her or hardening her. Her lawyer sends updates. She's taking classes, working in the library. Maybe she'll come out better. Maybe she won't. Either way, it's her journey now. I learned something through all of this. Something about trust and family and the difference between the two. Blood doesn't obligate you to destroy yourself for someone else's mistakes. Love doesn't mean accepting abuse. And sometimes, the people who save you are strangers sitting on a bench who remember kindness. The house is mine. The tree still stands. And every Tuesday morning, Henry and I meet at the garden for coffee before the volunteers arrive. We talk about small things, the weather, the plants, his counseling work, my slowly growing friendship with Judith. We don't talk about the darkness we both survived. We don't need to, because we're here, we're standing, and that's enough. Sometimes, late at night, when I can't sleep, I go out to the backyard and look up through the branches of the maple. I think about Caroline, about the years we had together, about Rebecca, both the child she was and the woman she became, about Henry and his unexpected grace, about second chances and new beginnings, and the ways we save each other. The tree survived because a stranger cared enough to warn me. I survived because I chose to listen. That's not a small thing. Some days, it's everything. I'm 64 now. I wake up every morning in the house where I raised my daughter, where I loved my wife, where I learned that family isn't always who shares your blood. Sometimes it's who shares your coffee on a Tuesday morning, who warns you about dangers they have no obligation to care about, who shows up to plant tomatoes and pull weeds and build something together. The maple tree is over 100 years old. With the conservation easement, it's protected for at least another 100. Long after I'm gone, it'll still be here, providing shade and shelter, standing as proof that some things are worth fighting for, worth protecting, worth the cost of saying no to the people who want to cut them down, even when those people are your own children. Especially then, because in the end, this is what I learned. Love isn't measured by what you're willing to give up. It's measured by what you're willing to stand for. And I'm standing here, under this tree, in this house, with this community of broken, healing people who chose each other. And I'm not alone. I never really was.